name is Diana, and I love Stage Girl. I went to the album release party and unfortunately got sick right after, so the only thing I did was listen to this album, and I had a lot of thoughts. I really wanted to share them. I found Eli about a year ago, and I was obsessed with the singles. Like, they were everything I've wanted in music for a very long time. I can tell her influences are some of my favorite artists. The build up to this album was phenomenal. The visuals, the concepts. You could tell it was a very genuine, authentic, fun rollout to what ultimately has been an album that's exceeded my expectations. And I already had very high expectations. I have seen a lot of people talking about the sound, the vibe, which is, of course, extremely fun, but I haven't heard a lot of people talk about the story Stage Girl is telling. And that's what I'm here to do today. I think the story of Stage Girl is a very personal telling of a story of transformation, a chapter in someone's life. On the one hand, I think this is very resonant to queer people. And on the other hand, I think that this is a story that's relatable to anyone. It goes through the process of shedding relationships that may feel stifling, self-discovery, kind of turning inward and listening to your own voice, ultimately hearing that and doing something about it. For Eli, this album tells the story of her exploring her gender identity and ultimately coming to the conclusion that she's a trans woman. The first song really sets the scene here. So, Star's Lullabye is basically talking about her leaving an emotionally immature man. She is drawing her line in the sand and she's saying, I can't do this anymore. I gotta get out of here. I feel like leaving a bad situation is a really good setup for starting a new chapter of self-discovery. And I feel like saying no to a situation or someone can be the first step of really listening to your inner voice and kind of respecting your needs and desires. Similarly, Girl of Your Dreams talks about a man who isn't good enough for her, and she's celebrating that. These first two tracks are more of like a celebratory shedding of relationships that don't serve you. But then we get to Marianne, and Marianne touches on a deeper heartbreak. I would say this is the first truly vulnerable track on the album. She's envisioning the life they could have together. She's in the bargaining stage of grieving their relationship. It seems that Marianne wanted a traditional relationship. That could either mean that she's in denial of her queerness, or she wants to be with someone that has a more traditional career path. I don't know. We'll never know. But at the end of the day, Eli understands this desire, even if she doesn't want to. It seems that Marianne is convinced that they are strictly friends with benefits, but Eli knows that there are reciprocated feelings here and feels the injustice in that. In the end, she's using this song to process the loss of Marianne from her life, but still holds out hope that there could be another chance. One part of the song that stuck out to me that really takes us to the next phase is, thought I knew myself by now, she knows what I need. Marianne knows Eli better than she knows herself, but now that Marianne is no longer in the picture, how's Eli going to get to know herself? Falsetto is about admiration and more deeply how people you admire reflect who you are. In the first part of the song, she's at a concert, she's at the merch booth and referring to it as the altar. She clearly worships this artist and the experience is very spiritual. I feel like being a huge fan of something not only reflects who you are, but it's also a great space to have time to explore yourself and try on a new identity. Eli wants to be a pop artist and can use the avenue of fandom to understand herself better. The second verse talks about a boy she admired in high school. There's a lot of references to how he was a loser and he persevered regardless of what people thought of him. Something that Eli really admires is embracing the flop. And I feel like this part of the song really touches on that. And she really admires the journey this boy took in believing in himself despite what other people thought. This seems to be one of Eli's core values and is something that she wants to embrace in herself. In the last part of the song, she's talking. And before I get into analyzing these lyrics, I think it's very valid to think that the talking parts of her songs are her speaking to someone else. I kind of see it as girl Eli now guiding pre-transition Eli through this journey. This is the first time we really see both of these identities kind of meeting each other. Does young Eli really know who girl Eli is? And can girl Eli help young Eli let her hair down? I wish I was a girl dares to envision her dreams. What does it mean to be the girl she wants to be on the inside and out? This song is really central to the heart of the album, which is why I love that it's exactly in the middle. This song shows her reverence for girlhood. The song progresses from how being a girl externally looks and acts to taking her home at the end of the night. I think it also shows that she doesn't just revere her, she wants to be her, and you get to look forward to what's to come for her. It's a huge turning point in the album where Eli, her, starts to become a reality. This part of the album is where the emotions all start to hit. And I think Sunny is a really masterful interruption of the album. It's an interlude that sort of rewinds and shows that on your journey of self-discovery, you may be taken aback by how much your childhood and teenage trauma comes up and impacts your self-image. This song explores past reactions to who she is. She's basically saying, take my material accomplishments away all you want, but I'm not hurting anybody by being myself. You can dislike who I am, but she's standing her ground and challenging the beliefs that have put her down. She starts to break down the idea that people who perceive her as a threat are only doing so because of cultural norms that are coming from Christianity and maybe generational norms. I think it's a really powerful reckoning of things that aren't in your control and kind of understanding that it's not you. There's some religious trauma going on that needs to be processed. The big takeaway from Sunny is that you inevitably have to face and reconcile with deep hurt to be free. Now that she's done a lot of internal work, like a girl lets someone else into her world, I think it describes how intimacy can affirm your gender expression and just how fun that can be. It's a really delightful payoff to all of the work that she's put in so far, but she doesn't just leave it at fun. At the end of the song, we kind of come back to her whispery speaking voice. And if we're going with my theory that she's talking to herself, she's really inviting herself to pause and ask, how does it feel to see what you're seeing in the mirror? And does transitioning make you rethink the boxes that you've put yourself in or other people? She's making sure to carefully and lovingly check in with herself each step of the way. And it's a really tender ending to such a flirty little song. I imagine that once all of this sinks in, it all hits like a ton of bricks. So when we hear it all at once, I think we can assume that this is when she really truly knows that she is a woman without a doubt in her mind. She's tried her on, she's embodied her, she's gotten to know her and love her. With that, it all becomes so real. This song really reaches out to the listener and asks us, have you ever felt it all at once? I think this was one of the most self-reflective songs for me because I can think of a lot of times where I've done self-reflection. I've come to a realization, it's hit, and it's like, oh my God, it's just like the floodgates are open and you're feeling everything and it's scary and there's still doubts in your head, but you do know deep inside that this is the right direction. I think this song allows anybody to relate to her journey, regardless of how similar or different yours is. iTouch really cements the strength in her identity, which feels very unshakable now. It also, to me, kind of feels like a callback to Sunny. In the first verse, she says that even when God is not reliable, even when the weather turns sour or she's anxious, she's resilient because she knows who she is. She's embracing herself, she feels comfortable and confident, and her body is now her safe space, and no one can take that away from her. Finally, Somebody I'm Not is the crescendo, and it's the finale this album deserves. It's a clear, concise ending. I don't want to die in the body of somebody I'm not. In this case, she's talking about herself being trans, like her literal body. I also think this can relate to anybody's experience of saying, I don't want to live with regret. The song really takes it back and reckons with her religious upbringing and how it made her feel surveyed, how it impacted her relationship with her parents, and even her parents' relationship with each other. She thinks back to foundational years in her life where she learned to separate her identity and how hard that was for her. But regardless of what other people think, she wears her heart on her sleeve, and she envisions, what would my life be like if I didn't do this? She'd be nervous to talk to strangers, she'd be holding back, and confidently concludes that she does not want to live with what would be the biggeth regret of her life. It's so beautiful. I think the Y2K and 2010 style of singing and production and really the ethos around the album is another vessel for storytelling. She's embodying the girlhood that she should have had full reign over as a kid in the 2000s and 2010s. And so this allows us to more authentically step into Eli's world. That's what I think separates this album from a lot of the trendy Y2K style songs that we're hearing now. It's not a nostalgia grab. It's really a crucial part of the storytelling of this album. Another theme that I've brought up a couple times is religion and reckoning with a religious upbringing, as well as some positive worship imagery that is thrown into the mix. And I really think it speaks to how powerful and intense a religious upbringing is in influencing how you see the world. In conclusion, Reddit user HeartPop calls Stage Girl Queer Bible. And so every time I listen to this album, I say, I'm doing Bible study. A lot of my experience of understanding who I am, coming to terms, and then loving myself is really reflected in this album, which is why it just so effortlessly connected with me. I have a lot of reverence for this album and am so excited to see anything that Eli shares, and I'm very excited to follow her journey. So, what did you think of the album? Let me know.